Yo, if this guy isn't the most American story, I don't know what is. Oh, God. I have spent all day deep diving this dude. And he died, just so you know. And what's crazy is I actually did a deep dive on him like 6 months ago, and then I forgot to do the video. I have like 200 videos that I have researched and not made because this is what happens. Whatever. ADHD, crazy, chaotic, whatever. I gotta do this. Join my Patreon if you're new here. If you're not, even if you can't afford a tier, I do share some stuff for free over there. I keep people up to date. But if you like my personal stories and want to go to my lives and just want to hear more and more about France, my personal life, my healing journey, blah, 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 Patreon is where I do that. So I went back and then also found some more stuff. And this story is everything I talk about is this story. Now, I don't just mean him. I mean the women that he married too. He was entangled with me too. He cheated. He's an addict. He is a good guy trying to fight, all these issues, but then always treats the women in his life like crap. Shocker. And then the things that his, so this right here is one of his wives. This was, y'all, okay. I'm going to try to be as organized with this, but it is a chaotic mess. There's so many elements to the story, but it is so perfect. It ties in purity culture. It ties in, essay and Me Too and white supremacy culture and consumerism, capitalism, addiction, codependency, and shut up rings. All of it. So let's get started. Shut up rings. Thank you, Cecilia Regina. I'm going to tag her, right? You need both the king baby and the pick-me. You can't have one without the other. Without the king baby, she's got no one to save. And without these sick men, without her, he can't exist because he will fail. So I can't change him, but I can work on her. And it was a very deep personal journey for me, but it also at the same time of my inner journey of unpacking all of this stuff, which is so rigid and so violent and so self-hating, I also had to learn about the systems of power that taught me and reinforced all of that so that I would not reenact that in my communities. Now, if you have not seen this movie, that's okay because it was mostly a lie anyway, but it's what started his career. And if you take nothing else from this whole video, if you don't watch anything else, please do not date or marry or get knocked up by insecure men. Heal your codependency, especially if you are a really independent, strong woman who makes her own money. These men will ruin your life, okay? Also, men who will not deal with their trauma are gonna hurt everyone closest to them, especially women and children. Now, any human being who does not deal with their trauma can end up perpetuating the cycle. But something happens with men, insecure men who need validation, who get famous and get powerful, and who also date women. Something happens with them so that woman becomes the perfect example of women in general under patriarchy being the shock absorbers, or as somebody put in one of my videos recently, thank you so much for this. This is a climbing metaphor, the crash pad. Right? The thing that they land on that will keep them from dying. That is what women do. And that is what, and then on top of that, she gets blamed for everything. And if she isn't blamed, her whole career and image is ruined because of this man or whoever it is. This man humiliated every single woman who stepped in his path. And then he still kept being able to do stuff. I know he was canceled, kind of, but he really wasn't. None of them are, especially if they're white, and especially if their name is Shia. Like, it doesn't matter how much they torture, and I do not use that word lightly, the women in their lives. They just get to keep doing whatever they want, and they go under the radar for a while. They always keep working because there's always going to be a man or a woman, an enabler, who will let them keep working and keep coming back and keep making excuses. And if we don't heal our enabling and codependency that we were forced to do to survive patriarchy, we Keep feeding this beast. Hurting other people, putting other women, especially, and children in harm's way of these men who will not heal. And if you stay with men like this too long, you become as sick as them. You will become the worst version of yourself if you hook up with one of these dudes. Because even if you weren't all that codependent going into that relationship, well, guess what? You're going to be real codependent coming out of it if you get out. So please, men with addictions, you will not save that man, and you will actually get dragged through everything he goes through, but you will experience the consequences of his actions, other than death, maybe, worse than he ever will. Please stop living Beauty and the Beast over and over and over again. Leave these men alone, and we got to heal our trauma, our need to save men, even if you don't date them. Now, just like every terrible dad, he just loved being a dad. Loved being a dad. Talked about being a dad. I'm sure he loved his kids that he had with multiple women, because he even admitted he cheated on every wife and girlfriend he's ever had. He literally said that in the statement that he made. Now, if you go through the timeline of all of his marriages, it seems like he has always had a woman in his life, because like me and my mutuals tell you, how your relationship starts is how it's going to end. This man could not be alone. He always needed a woman to enable his addictions and his lifestyle. And actually, the only reason why this dude got famous is because of his girlfriend's idea, her making it happen. And then guess what? Cheated on her. Now, before I go any farther, I have a lot of compassion for addicts. I have had a lot of addicts in my life. I have dealt with my own addictions. It is a serious it's an illness. It's an illness. I don't have a problem with addicts because I know they're sick. Why I talk about this is that women seem to, and women obviously have addictions. Relationships are also an addiction. If you find yourself needing to save a man, afraid of leaving him because what will happen to him, you might want to look into limerence, you might want to look into codependency, and you might want to work on that, because so many of us get put in deadly situations because we're addicted to broken men. And a lot of times it's because of our own trauma. Not always. Any of us can get tricked into this stuff, but some of us are a little bit more susceptible to it. And we become the absolute worst versions of ourselves because it takes a lot of energy, resources, time, and money, right? Because they're hobos. They always end up being hobos who require not only the labor of dealing with so many men in general, but you try dealing with all the stuff you and women end up having to manage with men who will not unpack this stuff. Multiply that by like 10 or 20 or even 100 if they have an addiction, because whatever mess you're cleaning up at home, you think cleaning up with it around the house, try cleaning up DUIs and debt and secret gambling and affairs. And then him literally blowing up his whole career because he decided one day to overshare in a little personal essay about graping a woman because he just had to get it off his chest. And boom, his wife and child now drugged through the mud with him. So y'all know, I could have just looked at this photo and told you, shut up, ring. Okay, this is his third wife, a very successful new HBO executive, like amazing career. Like most women, like I don't know about his first wife, but his second and third wife, very successful, driven women. Of course, it takes a very driven woman to have to handle this man and all of the stuff that comes with it. But this is the photo he decided to put on Instagram with this caption: when this happened, love that passive voice. She's pregnant, so what you're saying is that, and look at her looking, this is like the most addict and codependent dynamic ever. Her lovingly looking at him and him like, oh God. And then there's a man with a giant rifle in the back and she's pregnant. I know it's a joke. But this is cake smash in the face, but with a baby bump and a rifle. This is, look what she made me do. But guess what? He left his wife for her, his other wife and kid for her. Now look what she's making him do. Because if there is one thing that women are really good at doing, it's taming the beast. So, this is such a classic time. We got this wild and crazy guy, this little bad boy, this guy who is just so entertaining, and he's just so much. The way this man reminds me of Robert Downey Jr. Just the wild and crazy guy. And who is he with? A stable, successful, driven, disciplined, perfectionist kind of woman that, hold on, where is that doll? Dang it! This is who always marries that guy. Almost always. Maybe she's a bad girl too. But in order for him to keep this up, he had to have the perfectionist, people-pleasing, codependent, martyr, who is so used to doing everything that she doesn't mind taking on another child. These men usually exhaust you at some point. You could be the most unbreakable spirit, and then you get hooked up with one of these men, and they will bring you to your knees. You ask, if you want something done, give it to a codependent woman married to an addict. Oh, it'll get done. It'll get done because she's the go-to girl who gets everything done, except she can't actually take care of herself because everything is about everyone else. Now, what am I talking about in terms of blowing up his life? It's this. Morgan thought that when Me Too kind of took off in 2017, he thought, he claims this is not why he did it, but then in other interviews, he kind of said that is why he did it. He wanted to get ahead of the story. He thought he'd be a good guy if he just said, look at all this stuff I did, rather than being outed by a victim. So he did this whole statement. I'm going to go into a second. He didn't know that he would actually get canceled, which he really didn't, but he kind of did. He thought some people would get upset, and he thought some projects may go away. He never thought that this little confession of his would completely slash and burn everything. Within 8 days, the whole company was decimated. So everyone who worked for him, his whole family, everyone in his life, I'm going to get into more in a second, because he just had to tell people. He had to get it off his chest. He put all these people out of work right before Christmas. He did this whole thing and then went to rehab. And when he got out of rehab, oopsies. But there was a lot in that little confession. Not only did we find out that he is an admitted rapist, there was a ton of sexual harassment at his little company among him and his little friend, the little frat boy environment that I'm going to go into in a minute. But also, the whole reason he's famous was built on a lie. He came home to some film festival, and he said, I said to my wife, I got to change my life. And the next morning, I woke up. And this was before I'd written any of this. And from the coffee shop under my office, I booked myself into rehab. Later that morning, I went to the doctor. I was seeing him something. And we were talking about depression. And I said, I'm depressed every day. All I'm thinking about is everything happening at the time. All the women in our office, the issues of harassment, the subject, blah, blah, blah. And I said to myself while driving home, I have to talk about this. Doesn't matter who it impacts. I have to talk about this. It started off with me thinking I need to first talk about my depression, because my depression, men's mental health, is always supposed to be the most important thing. Not the trauma they inflict on everybody when they don't deal with it. It's their mental health, because nobody cares about men's mental health, right? No, men don't care about men's mental health. We care, because when y'all don't deal with it, we die. We really wish y'all would go fix yourself. Go to a therapist. Do all this stuff before you terrorize everybody once you get a little power. But no. So then you're like, nah. So I got to talk about my depression and what I've been going through and the way I emotionally felt at the time. And then it just kind of grew into this much bigger thing for me. It became a stream of consciousness, an emotional purge that I just had to get out. See, that's your problem there, Morgan. Sorry, I know he is. I don't believe you can't speak ill of the dead. I have so much compassion for addicts, but what we're not going to do is continue to not talk about this part. I wish this man had found peace long ago, especially before he started terrorizing every woman in his life, but he didn't. But you know who no one really cares about is all the people that he left behind. So I'm just going to talk about them, because I promise you they're having a very hard day right now. It is so hard to grieve somebody who abused you, I'd say it's equally as, I don't know, it's not a comparison. But someone that you loved who hurt you, that kind of grief is very, very difficult. So not telling the whole story doesn't really do his story or their story any justice. So his stream of consciousness, emotional purge, you just had to get it out. This moment where it's like, I have to talk about this, where there was a moment of clarity or guilt. It's guilt, buddy. It's clarity and it's mostly guilt. I felt like I needed to own up to the things that happened in my past. As somebody who made a career out of trying to find the truth and talk about things, I wanted to say that I can do it. I can do better. I can do better. But you know who he did not talk about this with? His wife. I got back Monday and I wrote this on Wednesday night. I think it was just a year post Supersize Me, post the separation and the divorce from my ex-wife, who he cheated on with his current wife, and falling in love with my current wife. He even says, I swear, y'all, even when men are trying to apologize, if they're not really doing the work, it is so selfish. Their apologies and their amends end up being actually more selfish than saying nothing at all. I wasn't standing in the back room, oh, those scarlet letters, let me get one. That wasn't my intention or hope. I guess the Jerry Maguire analogy is probably very close here, because I felt like I needed to share something in the midst of this conversation that just seemed to dominate the moment at the time. And social media felt like something that can be done down to a place where you feel like you're talking to someone who's like you. Yeah, I'm just like you guys. I graped someone in college, and I said, like, he thought he could just say all this stuff on social media because we just liked him so much. That we'd be like, thank you, bro. Me too. I graped someone too. Like, what? He really didn't think that people were going to be mad at him. Because what he did was a good thing. He told everybody. Isn't that enough? A lot of people think he did this to try to get out in front of the story so he wouldn't. And he was like, no. For me, it was just a moment where I felt really compelled to come clean, to share my behavioral mistakes. Hello, minimizing. That I made along the way and the lapses of behavioral judgment. Can you just say traumatized and ruin the lives of? No, it's behavioral lapse and behavioral judgment that I made that I wanted to own up to, because owning up is all men are supposed to do. Just admit you did it. And then you can have your whole career and everything. Look at this. We all make bad choices. Y'all are just like me. Don't loop us into this, bro. Nobody is good or bad. We are all on a spectrum. But don't do this. Don't do that. We're all bad. You're all bad like me. We all make bad choices over the years. And for me, it was one of those things where I just wanted to put it out there. As a person, as a man, as a husband and a father. Well, if you'd actually thought about being a husband and a father, you would not have made this statement. But okay. To say, I want to admit and accept the things that I've done. And then I figured that's how we can move forward. We figure out a way to move forward. If I just admit the things I've done. And look, now I'm sober now. All of these men, whether they are like Shia, I will never forgive that man. And Russell Brand, who are like, I'm Catholic now. Or Brad Pitt and Morgan, who say they're in AA and give an entire group of people a terrible name. So what I mean by that is, and just Google this if you don't know. All I know is that, Brad Pitt and and this Morgan guy, anytime they are publicly saying they are a part of this group like AA, they are already they already don't know as much as someone who's not in it knows, and that is that you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. If you're a member of Fight Club, you're not supposed to say you're in Fight Club, because if you act like this and tell everyone you're in it, now everyone's going to associate that group with terrible people. And I am not an alcoholic. I'm narcoleptic. That's why I don't drink. I fall asleep. I am naturally drunk. But I know a lot of people in that world. And all I did, just Google, what are the rules? You're not allowed to talk about it in press and say that you are a part of as the spokesperson. That's what he did. And that's why I say any of these men who say that, they use Catholicism, they use AA, they use, what else do they do? I'm forgetting. They're rebranding. Please Use your critical thinking skills, because they are literally saying that they're a member of a group to the same way men are like, look, I'm a dad. This is what this guy did too. I'm a dad though, right? It's rebranding. It's avoiding the consequences of their action. And it's centering themselves as this person who just has all these problems. I just did it because I'm depressed. I have an addiction. I needed God. I needed to be in the Catholic Church to avoid my upcoming impending trial against FKA Twigs because I literally ruined her life almost. Whatever it is, please don't, anytime these abusers, or Diddy, mental health, dark place, please don't believe it. Put all that empathy that you want to put for these poor souls who terrorize people, put that towards their victims. If those men are really, truly sorry, time will tell. But saying that you are going to church now, or you're an addict, or you were in a dark place, that isn't it. Or as Cassie said in her statement, one of the many great lines in her statement, stop believing them over their victim. Stop it. You are enabling predators to keep predatoring, because we always give men the benefit of the doubt. We always give men the benefit of the doubt, and never the women who are like, hey, hello. So now let's get back to where his career went down. First of all, the whole premise of the documentary that made him famous was that I can only eat things that are for sale over the counter at McDonald's, water included. But what he did not mention is that he was drinking, as far as I know, except for in other countries, you cannot buy alcohol at McDonald's. So the whole premise was a lie. Also, he wouldn't share the details of what he ate every day. There was no transparency around this, right? And then this other person did a whole thing and they're like, that's not what happened to me. And then also in his admission, his little, what was that? Emotional barf. Been consistently drinking since the age of 13. Like I said in his Instagram account, first thing, father. When I tell you that men understand the social capital of being married and a father, believe us when we tell you there's a reason why he put that first. Not because he put his children first, because he would not have been cheating on his wife and the mother of his child, and also putting himself in danger. Father has a wife hiding behind a group that he's not supposed to do this to. I mean, when it comes to being a husband to his second wife, they became famous together, but he got really famous and she was just kind of famous. Right here it says, there was only room for one famous person and his ego had to be coddled and served and fed. And any of my creative aspirations were quite literally like discounted. He got angry when an opportunity came up for me that it wasn't about him. Does that sound familiar, y'all? When I tell you that being with these men, among other things, will also, they will sabotage your career and get jealous of you and hate you when you have any, even though he owes that success of that movie, she made that happen. So look what happened to her after he left her. I was really depressed. Like, we lost our big, beautiful apartment. I was living in the little dark basement apartment with my son. And I felt like I lost my whole life. I lost our exciting, glorious, glamorous lifestyle and all the big things and the travel and all that, and just went into a hole. And even though he's such a good dad who loves his son so much, he wasn't really around. A lot of women know what this is right here. I was finding out that he was having an affair and leaving me for someone else, and didn't stop seeing her. And I was like, okay, that's, what can I do? And then we did. We went to therapy. I was one of those bizarre moments where I am not a sneaky snooper, but I literally looked at his phone one morning and I was like, something's up, something's going on. So they went to therapy. Y'all, I'm telling you, therapy does not fix men like this or their inability to see you as human beings. We did go to therapy, but he never, but it never felt like anything was really, he was committed to. And he was still seeing her. He's going to therapy with his wife. These men will be cheating in your face and trying to have both things with children involved. Y'all, The woman who he's cheating on her with, is the woman that he has that wedding photo, right? Where she's pregnant. Do not think that the men will treat another woman, will not treat you the same way. Unless they have done a lot of work on themselves, which he clearly had not, because he also cheated on the third wife and drug her through the mud when he wrote that little essay, I'm a rapist and all this other stuff. But because when you are with men like this, they will make you think like that you didn't deserve any of the credit for what you were like the brains behind. She's literally like, I didn't think I deserved any credit for that whole thing. And then looking back, her friends in the film industry were like, you should have gotten a co-producer credit on that. And that is why she didn't do that. Because again, this dude was so self-obsessed. And look at this. He was so sure that his come clean little essay, little Me Too admission, would provoke needed discussion about the growing specter of Me Too and Time's Up, that he grew impatient for it to be noticed. And he sent it repeatedly to outlets like the New York Times, just to make sure it didn't get lost. Then he prepared to go to rehab. The results weren't what he had imagined, though. Spurlock misread the level of boiled up anger from women who for too long had been marginalized and treated second class, with some being forced to see their ambitions dream got twisted and serve the perverse desires of powerful men. Rather than provoke discussion, Spurlock was effectively banished, lumped in with serial predators. He was so sure that he was a nice guy rapist. And he not only wrote this little essay, he was sending it out like, hey guys, read it. Look what I did. I'm a nice guy. Yo, I told you, I did that story about my ex from high school who's like a sociopath. Finally went to prison for a Ponzi scheme, and in prison was on American greed and white collar criminals. Even in prison, he needs to be important and the best. And he just got out, and then he just got busted again, so he's going back. Good. Like, this dude literally thought that his life would play out like a movie, because movies, everybody loves the hero's journey. Everyone loves a redemption story. But bro, you are not Jerry Maguire, and you don't get to write this script. And just like so many men who make the most selfish apology, and the interviewer was like, why did you feel so strongly about discussing that college encounter where he went into great detail to relive the trauma he inflicted on someone else? Which that alone is so selfish. I just felt like it was something that I needed to discuss in a way that would allow me to let go of this moment that stuck in my head and made me feel regret and shame. It made me feel bad. I had to get it out. When a man decides to tell in great detail the story of him raping someone in college, literally play by play, decides that he just needs to get it off his chest, tell the whole world, not thinking about the impact it's going to have on anybody, not his wife, not his kid, and definitely not the woman out there who has to relive it in the media as it goes viral. And you know who he's also not thinking about is all the people who know that's her. So even though he didn't name her and she never came forward in the media, how many people from college know exactly who that person is? What happened to her? We don't know anything. I'm glad we don't know her name. But that man, I mean, this reminds me of someone on who has so many women following him because he's just such a progressive man. And he thinks that telling his whole story on the internet is part of his recovery, is just telling his deepest, darkest secrets that involve SAing women. Somehow that is going to heal him and everyone else. No, share those stories in private, brah, because they don't just involve you. You are literally airing her trauma for everyone to consume so that you don't have to feel bad. Now, he lost everything when he came out with this statement, and then he felt abandoned. Even you're annoyed by that, huh? You know, he has talked since all this about all the ways he's trying to make a comeback. You know, he has 20 directing credits, mostly because of that movie, right? And then he wanted his second act. I am all for redemption on some level, but I haven't even told you about the work environment that this man created. I'm just focusing on his relationships right now. Just give me a minute. You know, so many of his interviews, he just kept, you know, oh, I'm different now. But I'm back where I was 15 years ago. I have to start over. Guess what? A lot of these women end up taking their life. A lot of women, their careers are completely ruined because of you and your little homies that you were enabling at your dumb company. But I have to start. It's like I gotta start over. See, he has been trying to make a comeback for a long time. Okay, just like Shia, just like Casey Affleck, James Franco, those two, Shia and James, were literally at Cannes. And the men who bring these men back should be held accountable as much as the men who did this stuff themselves. Because you are literally forcing us to forgive someone in the public eye. I mean, I'm not going to anyway. They always come back, y'all. Louis C.K. got a Grammy, sells out. Like, his career was almost not affected except for like one movie. But lots have been written about the women who marry him. I'm telling you, do not hook up with these men. They will humiliate you so much. I mean, this is just the cherry on top of the you will be blamed for all of his mistakes image management cake. He also tried to hide behind confessing that he had been SA, that his dad left when he was a child. Join the club. Join the club. When they do this, what they're doing is trying to make us all be guilty for them doing this. I'm sorry, but yes, there's cycles of violence. But I was a survivor of SA, and my dad left. I know lots of people with this dude's story, and they didn't do all that. Even at the beginning of his little I'm a problem, I'm part of the problem, he even framed it like this. And then he's like, no, I wasn't trying to get ahead of the story. As I sit here watching hero after hero, man after man fall at the realization of their past indiscretions, again, minimizing, I don't sit by and wonder who will be next. I wonder, when will they come for me? So he already told us that he wrote this because he was wondering, when will they come for me? And then he's like, no, I wasn't doing that. I did it because I wanted to start a conversation where men could admit what they did and have no consequences and feel safe. I am not some innocent bystander. Let me tell you something. No man is. I would love to meet one man who did not know a man was another man, his friend, or someone was treating a woman terrible. I would love to know one man, who wasn't a bystander, but a guilty one. And then there's the infidelity. I've been unfaithful to every wife and girlfriend I've ever had. Over the years, I would look each of them in the eye and proclaim my love and then connect with other people behind their back. I hurt them, and I hate it. I hate that for me. But it didn't make me stop. The worst part is that I'm someone who consistently hurts those closest to me. All men do, honey. I mean, people tend to do that in general. But that's why I'm saying, do not get mixed up with men who are, not doing well. Those men should not be dating. They should go work on themselves. And then you don't have to be totally healed to start dating. But the men who are like this messed up should not be dating. And you know why they do? Because they know a woman will take care of them. They know a woman will come in and be the little codependent cover for them. So after all this, he's like, and I'm part of the problem. No, you are the problem. There's lots of problems. You are the problem in that whole world of yours. Your family, your work life, you're not part of it. You're the problem. I'm not saying everyone doesn't have their own accountability in their own actions, but you are not a part of a much bigger problem that's way worse than you, like Weinstein and Les Moonves and all that. You're not one of them. Why? What caused me to act that way? Is it all ego? Or was it the abuse I suffered as a boy, as a young man in my teens? Just in case you didn't know that. Feel sorry for me. Abuse that I only ever told my first wife about. Why didn't you tell your second or third one? If I was your third wife that you did this letter out and I didn't know about that, I'd be like, bro, it would have been nice to know a lot of this. Anyway, is it because my father left my mother when I was a child? Well, there's like millions of people who could be, hello, I mean, I don't even know the statistic. There's so many single moms who had this exact, and their sons didn't necessarily do all this. Anyway, or that she believed he never respected her, so that disrespect carried over. Oh, God. Are you blaming your mother instead of your father? I'm not saying that she didn't have an impact, but what? Or is it because, I'm an addict? I've been drinking since I was 13. Something our society doesn't shun or condemn, but which only serve to fill my emotional because of my depression. I cope with depression. Depression we can't talk about because it's wrong and it makes you less of a person. No. I know what you're trying to say here, bro. You could have talked about this. You know what you could have done? You could have gone into your phone book and been looked up a therapist number and gone beep, 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 beep. Hello, I'd like to book an appointment and talk about my depression. But no, you chose not to. That was a choice. And now I understand toxic masculinity. I understand that it is imprisons men, but you're not going to do this, that you did all that because you can't talk about depression. Hello, you are not Jordan Peterson, and I don't like him. I know this man's dead. I'm sorry. I meant to make this 6 months ago. I just can't stand the way this. I'm sorry that he's dead. I wish he would have gotten better and become a better man. So this wasn't his legacy, but this is his legacy. That doesn't mean that everything he ever did wasn't good. He's not good or bad, but this man didn't really take much accountability, and I'm not going to not talk about it just because he's dead. In fact, anyone don't speak ill of the dead. In fact, you know what? A lot of us can't speak ill of people until they're dead, especially if they're men with power. After all this, I'm part of the problem. We all are. Again. But guess what? I'm part of the solution. Oh, I know you're not. Whatever you think you're doing, you're not doing. We should all, he thinks that we're supposed to admire him for being so brave here. I hope to empower the change within myself. We should all find the courage to admit we're at fault. You're at fault as much as me. I bet you did all this too, right? Come on, just say it. I'm empowering you. And then he said this thing, the only individual I have control over is me, and that's not true. You let all those bros who work for you terrorize the women in your office, and you're the boss. Sorry, you were the boss. I don't know, I've talked enough in my life. I'm ready to listen. No, you're not, because after this, you just wouldn't shut up. You went in hiding, and then you kept trying to come back. Until you died, you're still trying to come back because you want a career making film, because that's a cool job and you shouldn't have been robbed of that opportunity. You have to start back where you were 15 years ago when you were married to that woman you cheated on. Yo, I'm sorry, this story is just so big. According to everything I've seen, this dude dated all the women, the second and third wife he dated while married to the previous wife. According to the Independent, he says that we split up because I didn't make my relationship my priority. I was not valuing her the way I should. You have someone who's there to support you and you take it for granted. Not just that, she's not there to support you, bro. She even said herself that you got angry whenever she had success. So you may think she was there just to support you, and that's probably the role that she fell into, or just, was doing this, right? But you're actually supposed to support her just as much. I know men don't realize that. I didn't make her as important in my life as I should have. It was all me. Okay, great. Very big of you. But then we found out later on it was because you also cheated. So she went on to write a bunch of books on the back of this. And she was pregnant while he was filming Where in the World is Osama bin Laden, and was unaware of the danger he was in, risking the empire in Afghanistan. When she found out, she felt betrayed. Oh, there we go. That hits another point. Oh, he was reckless. Just reckless in general, but did all that while you're pregnant and then didn't tell you. I would have wanted to know. The father of our child is in a war zone. His third wife is amazing. I just want to be present in my kid's life, although he wasn't. Like, oh God. So this was written a long time ago, but this man who was like a document, like, this is what I'm saying, okay? Like, you obviously have never taken any classes on feminism, or you might have had a little bit of an insight of how awful you were to the women in your life. But you also should not have been making documentaries based on, like, look at this. He made this documentary about a guy fighting the civil wrongs of the world. Spurlock rails against flaws in the U.S. culture. He has traveled to every state, so he feels like he's in a position to criticize. Oh, you traveled to every state, How long did you stay there? Did you drive through it and go, check? My guess is you don't actually understand U.S. history or our story, because you would also understand how you have so much power over everyone just being an able-bodied white male body, cishet. Because you know what he thinks? He thinks that the biggest flaw of his home country is xenophobia. You don't think a country founded on genocide and chattel slavery, and how everything, all roads lead back to those two things, and patriarchy and capitalism being tied in, so like this to all. You think xenophobia is the problem? Bro, can you just see white men trying to talk about the United States without knowing anything about women's history or the history of Black and Indigenous people? None. And xenophobia is the biggest. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but what? How do men like this get so much money to make stuff they don't know anything about? God! And he said all this nonsense. Yeah, it's xenophobia because, in France it's a 3-hour train ride, but still people la 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 la. But let's just go back to Supersize. And let's talk about how the woman who was his girlfriend in that movie ended up being, sure, her career launched, but this was in The Guardian. So he got to be the funny goofball, right? And then he's got this nag girlfriend and back in the background cooking lentil, telling him to eat healthy, telling him, I told you so, because she knew what would happen. And then when all this thing happened in the movie, all his fatty liver, this is why people like this documentary is nonsense, because when we found out that he's literally said, I'm an alcoholic and I've been drinking not every day, but more or less consistently since the age of 13. All these health problems at the doctors he went to that, I don't know, may have something to do with alcoholism. Your liver? No, it's because I'm eating McDonald's. Not that didn't have any play in it, but it literally delegitimizes the whole movie. And then he's also having problems in the bedroom. So because she talked about all this, people didn't like her. They always pick the clips where I'm at my worst. People were writing into the message board saying, you should leave her. Such a good girlfriend. You wouldn't ever believe it. Y'all, please learn from these women. You will be blamed for everything they do. Skylar White is who you are. Walter White is who they are. And raped his own wife, ruined her life, ruined his kid's life, literally put everyone's lives in danger because he wouldn't let someone help him with his bills. No, I'm a big man. No one helps me with my bills. But everybody worships Walter White. You will be Skylar White. If you get with one of these men, you will be Skylar White, and everyone's going to hate you for what he does. They're going to blame you for what he does when he gets in trouble. And when you are trying to protect him from getting in trouble, they're going to hate you for not letting him do his thing. What about his law and now infamous lack of libido? Have things improved? Well, I never see him because he's always on the road. So it's worse. He's even more stressed out now. No, things are fine. Thank you very much. I would even said yes if he hadn't gotten worse. Okay, I don't think she's joking here. She's like, no, that's not. They are in fact planning to elope. So they dated for a long time. She built him up, Build-A-Bear. And then he's like, let's just get eloped. And then they have a kid together, and then he's gone all the time, puts himself in danger while she's pregnant with the kid, and then he cheats on her the whole time. And then he leaves her for one of his affair partners. Now, none of this surprises me. He is a frat boy. Speaking of which, let's talk about how much worse the problem was at the company he was running that made him feel so guilty that he should make that statement that blew up his life and, more importantly, ruined the lives of the people who depended on him. He minimized it in his little statement, calling how I called her, sexy pants, blah, blah, blah. It was so much worse. Shocker. In addition to his whole, oopsie, I raped somebody. And his sexual harassment allegation, verbal harassment rather than the gropey, feely kind, he says. He was in charge of Warrior Poets, which was a fratty boys club. Shocker, coming from a frat boy. Garish and gross nude paintings hung in the office. Alcoholic drinks were pushed on employees whether they wanted them or not. Women's appearances were frequently and openly commented on by both him and this Jeremy dude. Jeremy! Sorry, I'm going to always say it because love is blind. When women would come in for meetings and they were conventionally attractive women, very dolled up, Jeremiah and Morgan would say after she left, she gave good meeting, bruh. In fact, the assessment of women's appearances also dictated the content. If you're making a film or TV show about a woman character, they'd say like, oh, cut that shot of the fat woman. Like this Jeremy dude would give her notes and be like, no, you already have 2 fat characters. Why don't you just cut the other ones? One of the women who he called Hot Pants was Morgan's former assistant. She was beautiful and talented. She was also an incredibly smart businesswoman, and she wasn't treated as business. She was treated as Morgan's hot assistant. It was a very contentious relationship. He also tried to get, this, I tell you all the time. He always was trying to get people to drink. Like I said before, every time I try to go on a date and I never order alcohol because I don't drink, that always made men so mad. Why? Because A, misery loves company, and men who don't have an alcohol problem didn't care. Unless they were trying to inhibit my judgment because they were predatory. So this dude was like, everybody's got to drink. 4 o'clock, everyone drink. We were encouraged, if not expected, to drink because that's how you get FaceTime with the big bosses. Even if you did, it wasn't an offer, you would just get a glass of wine on your desk. Also, unwanted massages, neck massages. One woman says, if I was older and less worried about the job, I would have said no. Other women pretended to drink so that he would leave them alone. Even though he's the one who set the tone for all this, he actually wasn't the most problematic person there. It was his little friend Jeremy. Even though he started off as Morgan's assistant, he worked his way up to COO and is running the company with him. And he was the one who was the most problematic. Always talking to them about his personal life. That dude made all these women uncomfortable in his office. He kept women from moving up within the company. So all this, y'all, okay, lots of touching going on. While looking at your work, rubbing your shoulders, your neck, all this stuff, trying to be your friend so he could touch you. Punish women who said no by not putting them up for the same jobs that they were getting before. Gotta have my chances. But that dude, this Jeremy dude, he has been nominated for an Emmy as early in 2019. This man has never stopped working. Just in case, he looks like a caricature of evil. And what's so funny is that so many women, we lie to ourselves, we lie to social media. When we're in these situations, she's like, oh my God, waking up to my husband, he's such a beautiful, he's doing all this stuff. Cheating, not doing that stuff. Now, what does this have to do with purity culture? Well, I am not against veganism at all. I am against when veganism is just another form of white supremacy culture and purity culture. And this binary of you're good or you're bad, you're pure or you're dirty, you're moral or you're immoral. So she's not vegan anymore. And just like part of purity culture is about shame and hiding and being pure. And so the more you push that beach ball underwater, the more it's going to go, right? So she's all vegan. And basically doing this movie kind of put her in this position of being this dietitian and all this stuff. And then her career hinged on that. So she became known as this. This is why I don't ever want to be pigeonholed, right? I don't ever want to be known as I do just this. Because I don't want to just do one thing. Because her whole career was built on being a vegan and healthy eating, and then she had to fully commit to it, and really it was just covering it, sorta. The same way a lot of religious people are you better be religious because you're bad if you don't. A lot of white women do this because it's tied to this, right? And this purity stuff. The same way women slut shame other women. I used to do that, and it's because I was jealous. That's all it was. I was why do they get to do all that stuff and have fun, but I can't? I know I'll criticize what they're doing to justify what I'm doing because I don't feel like I can do that. So I'm going to double down on this. So that's basically, she admitted that's what she was doing. But the reason she became vegan to begin with was because she was a sugar addict. So this woman had a lot of like troubles with eating and eating disorders. And as I just talked about yesterday, I struggle with my own. And part of that was absolutely tied to childhood essay, purity culture, like all this, like everything about what being good and daddy issues and a lot of times because of the way women are socially conditioned, when men have addictions or aren't handling whatever it is, it goes outward. Their violence goes outwards. And a lot of times women, not always, I'm going to speak for myself, ours goes inwards, right? Making yourself vomit is so violent. I mean, I also, as a white woman, I know we can be very violent. That too, okay? We can be, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just study U.S. history in the South especially, or just read They Were Her Property. Anyway, good starting point. What I'm saying is that a lot of women who have a lot of problems and are also this and are trying to be good, it ends up coming out in these weird ways that are more private and more like an internal war instead of this external war. Doesn't mean it's not just as harmful, but because we don't have all these systems, and less so at the more intersections you are, and all these systems backing us up with all this power and the violence behind all that, a lot of times we go inward or we take it out on someone we have power over. But again, the less power you have systemically, the less, anyway, what I'm getting off topic. Like, she quit her job as an entertainment law firm to become this chef on Super Size Me, and then that became her whole identity. And again, a lot of this comes down to purity culture and the individualist mindset in the United States. And instead of this, like, in the lack of community built into our culture, and, you know, we don't have time off. We don't have paid vacation. We don't have health care. Family is not prioritized. That's why we're obsessed with, family, right? I mean, talking about family is so important. It really baffles people over here. When I was teaching in Spain, literally one of my bosses was like, why do y'all talk about how important families are all the time? Isn't that just a given? And I'm like, it's because we're really insecure about it. And we, especially like my people who look like me, we don't really know how to do this without this weird domination, whatever. Anyway, so identity. Lack of identity, which again, because of our history, a lot of times that's why we end up stealing other people's identity. So that was her whole identity. She became a coach, speaking circuit. All of her money was about this and being the morally superior, good girl, good girlfriend, good wife, good mom who's keeping her bad boy together. Meanwhile, he's just cheating on her. But by the time she got done being vegan, her doctor said she was anemic. She could didn't know how she was standing up. And then also, and this is very much, I will speak for my experience with other white women, we police the crap out of each other. And other people. That's how we get, Karen, hello. But that's about us policing people that we have power over, particularly anyone in the Black community. Which again, if you don't know U.S. history, this is what I was writing my thesis on, y'all. Like, I know a lot about the U.S. Southern history in this, especially like white women's history in the South, and this mob mentality, we get it honest. I saw her eat an egg. Punish her. Lock her up. I'm telling you, so much of this is about that purity culture and right, wrong, it's like the violence behind that. So then whenever she did cheat or when she had fish for the first time, I felt fantastic and guilty and ashamed and I wasn't good enough and all that. I am telling you, I believe our diet culture and our purity culture comes out in everything and how we suppress like pleasure. Schmegsual, with food, with everything. We're so, come on. Some of our colonizers were literally kicked out of Europe. Europe is like, y'all are crazy. So they go over to the U.S., colonize. And why do you think we have so many cults? This like hierarchical, very rigid, dominant like rules, right? Police your body, police other people's body. Why do you think we're such a police state? I only say this, and I want to talk more about it later on, but when I moved to France, I was like, look at people. They just eat a dessert for no reason, but they have a little bit. I'm not saying that they don't have this. I'm just saying this like really weird relationship to pleasure and how it comes out in all these sick and twisted ways where you're either like Madonna or the whore. And it's so much more extreme in religious communities that are especially very tied to purity culture. And by the way, purity culture is completely tied up to anti-blackness. That like the United States created all that crap because it needed to justify the violence against black people, especially enslaved people. All of this, like I'm telling y'all, like I know I seem like I'm all completely unhinged, but this is all tied together. I should do a whole video just on that because I think about it all the time and how much me realizing I have to deconstruct purity culture in order to deconstruct white supremacy culture, patriarchy, and everything else because they are like this. Not saying it's just in the United States. People seem to think I'm saying that. I talk about the United States because I know our history very well and how it is directly tied to capitalism and exploiting people. So when she said, never mind, I'm not vegan anymore, guess what? It came after her. All this hate, all these followers, all these people were like, bah! And even the way she talked about watching someone eating a burger, it was like talking about someone watching corn. And it also, just like with Schmags, is sneaking around, hiding, overindulging, being clean, perfectionism, being good. Okay, I'm tired. I'm going to stop there because I could talk about this forever. The king baby, whether he's an addict or just a reckless man or selfish, needs her, okay? So even if you're not dating men, you got to work on her and being good and perfect and a people pleaser because all that's tied to all these systems of power that are dehumanizing to everyone. How this was one. I'm so sorry, y'all. This was like, oh God, that was like a really hard story to cover. And I'm sorry for all the people affected by addictions, including relationship addictions and codependence. I started to realize that until I started to heal myself, I really couldn't help anyone else. And then also the more I worked on myself, the more of a butterfly effect that had on the people in my life. Because when I'm being really sick in my stuff, other people, I tend to make other people around me sick. Because I am more to manage, right? Whether it's an addiction to food and compulsive eating or men or like relationships or whatever. The point is, I'm not trying to shame anyone who has addictions. I'm just trying to say it's a sickness and it's also very much tied to these power systems that need it to go on. Does this make sense? Am I making any sense? Oh, it is 12:01 on a Friday night. This is what I'm doing. Oh my God. Anyway, please comment and share anything. Join my Patreon if you want to hear more personal stories from me. Depending on the tier, I get more personal as the tiers go up. If you want to see my lives and stuff. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you don't understand anything I'm talking about, please let me know. I have a history degree, but I've been continuing to educate myself ever since that journey started in 1997, whatever. I don't know if I'm doing the right math. And it really changed my life, learning about the history of my people, my family, myself, and how all of these are intertwined, and they help me face my past so I can move forward. Blah, blah, blah. I can't stop talking. Have a great day. Thank you for listening. And if you like my stuff, make sure you're subscribed and haven't been unsubscribed by YouTube. Oh crap, it's the la.